Ladies and gentlemen, in this Gaming.com video, we're going to be continuing the discussion of the Xbox One privacy and advertising wars. It was just a couple of days ago that Albert Penello issued a statement which basically read to the effect that Microsoft had absolutely no plans to harvest our data, in other words customer data, for the purposes of selling and advertising. However, just very recently, these fears have been once again ignited. There's a trade publication known as Advertising Age. Unsurprisingly, it's focused on, well, companies and advertising agencies and so on. And it had a report based upon a speech from Yusuf Medhi. Now, Yusuf is the Corporate Vice President of Marketing and Strategy for Microsoft. And he delivered this speech in Phoenix, Arizona at the Association of National Advertisers Masters of Marketing Conference. Yes, that is quite a mouthful to say. Anyway, Advertising Age, also known as Ad Age, put out a report which was titled, and I quote, "Xbox One's data treasure trove, could reshape marketing." And inside this article pointed out the potential the Xbox One actually had for making user data available to market research, which apparently was something that Medhi actually only hinted at during his talk. It actually, he said, Medhi, we are trying to bridge some of the world between online and offline. That's a little bit of a holy grail in terms of how you understand the consumer in that 360 degrees of their life. We have plenty of unique positions at Microsoft because of what we do with digital, as well as what we do more and more in the television because of Xbox. It's early days, but we're starting to put that together in a more unifying way, and hopefully at some point we can start to offer that to advertisers broadly. And there was an unnamed marketer that was telling Ad Age that Microsoft could use the Xbox One in conjunction, of course, with Kinect to, and I quote, offer unprecedented information about how people engage with TV advertising. So way back when, before the Xbox One was removed of its always online DRM features, people were extremely concerned about the fact that the system could literally continue to keep, well, apprised of them, could keep checking on what they were doing. Medhi himself has said that the new and improved Kinect has the functions and ability to distinguish up to 6 voices in a single room, respond to voice commands, read skeletal movements, muscle force, whether people are looking at or away from the TV, and even their heart rates. And this is once again according to Ad Age. Or Ad Age, I suppose, to be precise, but regardless. So, what's going on there? Microsoft, of course, are heavily pushing towards the fact that this is not the case. It was only just the other day that Albert Penello's statement, I'm not going to read the whole thing out because it's extremely lengthy, but he pretty much said that Kinect can recognize your face and log you in automatically, but they don't keep any of that stuff on the cloud. So let's say, for example, you were to go to your friend's house. Microsoft do have the technology to recognize you walking in and then automatically log you in because your face is stored on the cloud. But for the sake of privacy, Microsoft is saying that they don't keep your face on the cloud. So in other words, they have the technology to do so, but they don't do so. They also stress things such as Skype, in that it freezes in the background. So let's say that you're playing a game and you forget you've got, Skype on and you're streaming with someone, but then you go to the main game and you forget 6 hours later, I've completely forgotten by now that Skype was on and you've stripped down to your boxer shorts. That's fine. The stream would have automatically stopped the moment you minimized the title or you minimized the Skype. Which, makes sense and is great and all. They also said that the Xbox One's features could be used in advertising, since we could see the expressions, engagements and so on, but they're not doing that. They're not working on that. That was the exact words. Firstly, nobody's working on that technology. And even if they did want it, they said, even if they were working on that, they also stressed that you would be completely aware of it, you would be able to control just how much of that data was actually coming off of your system. Phil Harrison, who is the European chief at Microsoft, also has denied this. He said that Microsoft is very, very good policies around privacy. We are a teacher in the world of privacy. I think you'll find we take it very seriously. We aren't using Kinect to snoop on anybody at all. We listen for the word Xbox on and then switch on the machine, but we don't transmit personal data in any way, shape or form that could be personally identifiable to you unless you explicitly opt into that. So, yeah, what are my thoughts? Well, I think that it's unlikely that Microsoft would have such a breach of privacy, because I think that if people found out that Microsoft were doing this, I think it would be too harmful to them. I'll just be honest. I think, and this is pretty much exactly what I said in verbatim in the other video I know, but I think that Microsoft know that people, there is someone out there who would basically do packet snooping. They would check on what data was being sent to Microsoft, and they would do that over a period of time, and they would collect that data themselves, and then they would figure out whether Microsoft was spying on them. I just have that feeling. I think that Microsoft wouldn't risk it. I'm not saying that Microsoft are good or evil, but let's even assume they had bad intentions. If they're saying they're not doing that, I think they wouldn't, simply because of this, because the Xbox One's already had pretty, let's use the word tenuous, relationship with the public. But, saying all of that, I would really, really like to know why Medhi was saying that at an advertising conference. Saying that you have the technology is pretty much like saying, well, why would you say you have the technology if you're never ever planning to implement, utilize, or ever capitalize or monetize that technology? It just makes absolutely no sense. So I would more like to hear the reasoning behind that. I would like them to comment on that. I would like them to clarify. And this has been a problem, I think, that Microsoft have been facing for a while, especially back in the Don Matrick era. The DM era, also known, of course, as a very dark time for Microsoft. Did you get it? Dark time for Microsoft? Ha ha ha. Anyway, one of the big problems they had was, of course, his messages. I'm pretty sure at that point they could have had, the developers pointing that the machine could create gold bullion out of used tea bags, and somehow Don Matrick would have upset someone. They would have been like, well, it can only be a certain amount of tea, and it also has to be done at the particular angle of the moon. I'm pretty sure he would upset someone, because it's just, he just had that effect. He really upset people. He pissed people off with his messages. Not that I blame people. I mean, some of the stuff he was saying, I just was like, really? Are you on Microsoft's side, or are you actually trying to be, helping the competition here? But this has been something that Microsoft have been suffering with, because consistently they are dealing with mixed messages, and they've got to understand that this is not, I think all corporations need to understand that, look, you might think that you're addressing a room of developers, or a room of advertising professionals, or a room of, whatever. But the problem is, if you're dealing with a certain amount of people, especially if it's like a speech in front of like 50, 60, 200 people, 300 people, something like that, one of them is going to either publish a paper, they're going to talk to their buddy, or something else, and that is somehow going to come across, especially if NDAs are not super enforced. And I mean, we actually got wind of some of the specifications of the systems, and obviously, to a degree, some of it was off. But even so, we had an idea of the specs, and this has been, people now, we're getting people who scour, I mean, I do mean that word, scour, things such as patent filings, and they'll look to see what patents, for example, Blizzard are filing, and they'll be like, oh, okay, I see. Blizzard are filing X, and then they know roughly what, to look for the next like World of Warcraft, the next StarCraft or whatever. And companies now are starting to get wind of this, and they're starting to file things in, other companies where it's a lot other countries, where it's a lot harder to find this painted information. And that's the problem. People now are becoming a lot more apprised. So when someone says, well, okay, they're saying this, but on the other hand, they're holding a conference which says that, what's going on? And I think that's where a lot of the mixed messages are. So I'm really curious exactly what they say about Medhi, why he was giving that talk, because at the moment we're lacking the context, and without context it's really hard to make any educated opinions. But I still don't think this means that much, because I just think it would be too harmful for Microsoft, because I don't even think you have to be particularly against the idea of someone watching you or spying on you. I just don't think that people would have that kind of comfort level to be able to deal with that. I mean, sure, people are used to, having an advert or something on TV, and, they're used to seeing like a banner ad, or they're used to driving down the road and seeing like, a billboard. Fine, all of that's cool, but, to actually start recognizing your face, or to start, saying, oh, that's Bob, and we notice that Bob really likes this brand of food and this brand of drink, and we know that Bob likes, these type of movies, so we can start to advertise specifically to Bob. And oh, look, Bob's now gone round John's house. Oh, I see. So Bob and John are friends, so we can guess now that he has some interests, so let's start, advertising them special movie deals and stuff like that. I think that's where people start to really be like, no, this, I'm not going to deal with that type of stuff. Well, imagine, it starts to, this is ultimately where people are worried about. They're worried that, okay, you're watching a TV show. Let's just say you're watching, I can't think of an example. Something like Game of Thrones, the new Game of Thrones season. It's like, oh, okay, I noticed their heart rate is raising here, so they're getting excited. Or I noticed that, okay, this scene's not really grabbing their attention. Or imagine if it's like an advertising, an advert, and they're like, okay, everyone leaves the room, or they're muting the sound on this particular advert because it must really annoy them. Or, oh crap, our 18 to 45 target demographic, they're not even paying attention to this ad. Oh, okay, they've got a lot of interest in this ad. The first couple of seconds obviously grab them, and obviously that allows them to much better produce advertising which is targeted towards the demographic they're aimed at. And I think that's where people are getting kind of upset. But anyway, I think that's just about it for this particular video. I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye for now.